Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. So I thought in this video what we'd do is we would just take a look at how the Dodoria and Zarbon unit does in the Gods of Destruction stage. Now I've seen Dodoria and Zarbon catch a lot of flack for not being as good as the other EZAs. And that is possibly true, but I still think they're a solid enough unit to be used on various stages. I still think they have some viability. I definitely think they probably excel a lot more in Super Battle Road. The effective against all types and the attack lowering certainly do help in that field. So I definitely do think they are a lot better there than they are maybe in the Gods of Destruction events, where monotyping is kind of the go-to mechanism, so effective against all types kind of falls off. And of course they hit quite hard out the bat, and these guys don't really get time to stack up that attack and defense. I think they're a solid option for the Space Traveling Warriors LGEGT as well, because it gives them time to build up, so they are viable options there. That being said, I do think they're still pretty good overall, so I don't really think people should be that harsh on them. I think they're still really solid and viable. I think the only real issue with them is that they don't link so nicely with the Teq Extreme Form Freezer, considering how he looks to be the primary unit that they were designed for, alongside possibly the LR Full Power Freezer. It just seems a bit weird that they're not necessarily, seem like they designed to work in that situation. So beyond that, it's pretty much not too much of an issue, but it is somewhat interesting how they don't seem to be designed with that in mind. Their link set is somewhat decent, but it's just designed to mesh with different kinds of units. You'd think they'd usually give them like a key link or something to kind of hit it up with Freezer, but yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world if they don't. It's just a little bit disappointing, I guess, from that aspect. So we're taking a look at how they do here. Obviously, we did manage to get their turn, and you can see they're starting just around about below 100k. We are running them only under a double 130% lead, so they're not necessarily running at maximum capacity here. They don't have any links activated or anything like that. So realistically, it's not going to be the best showing from them, but you can see there they've got 60k defense. They did take that super attack that lowered their defense, which obviously doesn't really help that much, so that is just something that we do need to be aware of when we're assessing them right now with this kind of defense. But they will raise their defense. Remember, they raise their attack and defense for 7% on every attack they do. So that's not just super attacks, that is attacks. So they should relatively quickly build up their stacks. Even if they just proc an additional attack, it will help them build, like in this situation here. So it does help. And I mean, taking only 9k after having their defense lowered, yeah, there's an item, but it's really not that bad. They do provide really good support to the rotation as well. Freezer and other units, a lot of Space Traveling Warriors do benefit from that additional support passive. So it's not like we're not getting anything additional out of them. I just think maybe if they'd had one or two links to share with Freezer, that would have probably been best case scenario. Just because it really would have helped out, would have improved the performance overall. And yeah, just realistically make them that tiny bit better. I think the benefit of Vegeta and of Goku, Krillin and Vegeta and of Goku as free-to-play units. Goku obviously has tons of linking partners, and Krillin and Vegeta themselves, when they transform, they're a super viable linking partner for the brand new LR Vegeta. And I always feel like when they make these free-to-play units that are super viable with the new LRs, it does just give them a little bit of an upper hand in terms of like being remembered favorably by the community, because it just means that, hey, look, this guy is cool. He's a nice foil for this fancy new card I got. So I do think that does play into it a little bit, but overall, I genuinely don't find them to be that bad. Any unit that starts just below 100k, that can gain an additional, 70% attack and defense, get them to around 130. Yeah, genuinely is quite fine. I do think the requirement for them to have freeze on the rotation to kind of, or in the team to activate their full attack and defense isn't that bad, because to be honest, most teams you're going to run them on, Space Traveling Warriors, or pretty much anything that they're on, Terrifying Conquerors, Planet Namek Saga, you're going to have freezer on those teams. And if you don't have freezer because you're running some other kind of team build, it's probably in your best interest not really to take them. I just don't really see the point. And remember, it's team based, so they don't have to be in the same rotation, which again is technically good for them. So I think people are overreacting a little bit when it comes down to how bad they are. But I just think it is also, when you compare it to the other two, they do seem to be a little bit more niche. You know, they seem to need a lot more requirements to get them going up to the standard of the other two. But I think people are also forgetting they're the only support type unit from the three. And generally, support type free-to-play units are somewhat gimped in some way, because supports are so valuable. Because they provide that additional buff to the entire rotation, they augment every single other unit. So it's not like they just have 130k defense, for example. They are giving Freezer, when he's stacked up, another 40k defense. They're giving Bardock, when he's stacked up, additional defense. They're increasing their offensive capabilities. So you do need to bear these in mind. I mean, the reason Goku has 180k defense is because comparatively he's not giving another 20 and 30k to the other units on the rotation, and that is something people do need to remember. It's very easy to forget that those support type passives do add a lot to the rotation, and so those units are generally weaker. I mean, we've had some instances like Strength Cooler and Bojack and maybe units like that, but realistically, you know, it's not always that way. You do get them from time to time, but it's not necessarily something that's quite common. So yeah, realistically not something that we're going to be too concerned about. Overall, I think they've done okay in the God of Destruction event. I do think their defense is a little bit too low. Preferably, I'd like to float them as a support or run them under a higher lead. But in this case against Belmont, they're definitely getting showed up. To be fair, Belmont is probably the hardest God of Destruction. At least I found them to be the hardest God of Destruction. So I would definitely say, even though they're not necessarily doing fantastically, I would say this is probably one of the toughest events in the game for them to be shown off in. You know, it's not like showing off a unit in the borderline free-to-play conquerable, you know, original SBRs and stuff like that, that people beat with free-to-play teams and things like that. They are genuinely being asked to be put up against a super difficult event, which is just something that, you know, most times you wouldn't do. So with that being said, I do think they've done pretty well. You know, with items, they're not a liability. The issue is once the items go away, I don't think their defense will have grown enough, unless you get super lucky, to survive multiple hits from a God of Destruction. 1 or 2 hits, sure, but anything more than that, I highly doubt they're going to be able to provide any kind of substantial resistance to. And that's just the way it is. Some of these events are super hard. I mean, I look at this event, and it requires a lot of fine-tuning and a lot of RNG. You kind of need the super attacks to fall your way. You need your units to be able to build up their attacks and defense. You need the attacks to line up. It's not a easy event. But that being said, I do think they do okay. But of course, let me know down in the comments what you guys think of Zarbon and Dodoria. Are you disappointed in them as well? Or do you think they're just about right in terms of how they balance the unit? And as always, let me know how you guys are finding other free-to-play units in DBZ Dokkan Battle or the Gods of Destruction event. But until the next video, stay safe and bye!